The owner's manual for Rev Max powered Harleys, such as this Pan America and Sportster S models, state that the oil should be checked after the engine's been running with the oil hot and with the bike leaned over onto the kickstand. But that's wrong. It took Harley Davidson until the 4th model year of the Rev Max platform to realize that checking the oil level with the bike leaned over on the kickstand is going to give inconsistent results. If we're just looking at the Pan America Special, you have the variable of does it have or does it not have the adaptive ride height, like mine does here, right? This is my bike leaned over with the ride height in the lowered position. With the bike off, if I happen to move it around at all a little bit, right, and the suspension pumps up, and now we really have more of a steeper lean angle. That's going to throw off those measurements on that dipstick. Plus, when you have bikes like the Sportster S and the Nightsters that are using the exact same dipstick in their engines with the same level markings, but those bikes have very different lean angles when leaned over on their kickstands. So in late February of 2024, Harley Davidson released a service bulletin informing dealers that the only way to accurately check the oil level in a Rev Max bike is with the motorcycle in the upright position. Measuring upright does not mean upright and on the center stand. One, not every Rev Max bike has a center stand. And on a Pan America Special, when it's on the center stand, the bike actually leans forward a little bit compared to being just held upright on level ground. Now that check procedure does still require the oil to be hot right after the engine has been running for a bit to get it up to operating temperature. Two ways to do that: either ride the bike for about 5 minutes, or you can let it idle in the shop for about 10 minutes. If you have the bike on the kickstand while it's running to warm the engine up, hold the bike upright for about the last 30 seconds to a minute of the engine running so that the oil has a chance to properly level out in the engine before you take the measurement. For holding the bike upright while you do the oil check, there's a few options. A wheel chock would work great. Good option if you are doing a complete service on the bike, but perhaps a little overkill just to do a quick oil check now and then. You could also enlist a friend to help hold the bike upright while you do this. If you're like me and don't have any friends, perhaps you have some child labor that you could exploit instead. And if you're good with balancing the bike and you feel comfortable doing that, you could certainly hold it upright and do this yourself if you're careful. Make sure you keep the bike upright after shutting it down. One thing to help to make sure you are holding it level is to use a level app on your smartphone. Set that on the seat so that you can easily see when you have the bike level and not lean too far one side or the other. Make sure you have your rag handy. I hold that in the same hand that I'm using to hold up the bike. We unscrew the dipstick, bring it over, wipe it off, screw back in. Oil level is checked with that dipstick screwed all the way in. Screw her back out and see what it looks like. Now, of course, you can then put the bike back over onto its side stand. And for checking in the upright position, the manual states that that oil should be right at the full mark. Shouldn't be any below it, shouldn't be any above it. And let's see if I can get a close-up here for you. And it looks like we are right on the money pretty much there. So just to compare, let's see what the oil level is taking the measurement with the bike leaned over. Right? On the side stand measurements of the dipstick, the ARH is currently lowered. I haven't messed with the bike since turning it off, and I'm measuring right about midway on the gauge there. Now if I bounce my bike a bit to get that suspension to raise up, get the bike to lean over more, and retake that measurement, and now I'm pretty much at the full mark on the side stand indicator on the dipstick. And I mentioned earlier about having the bike on the center stand pitches the bike forward a little bit. Let's see what that does to the oil level. And that measurement comes out a little bit higher than the full mark. So if you're topping off oil with the bike on the center stand and you're filling it to that full mark, really when you go to check it with the bike upright and level, it's going to be underfilled. But for just a quick check after a ride, having the bike on the center stand, I think if you check the oil level and see that it's a little bit above the full mark, that's a pretty good indication that you're good to go. And Harley's service bulletin does state that checking the oil level with the bike leaned over on the kickstand is still appropriate if you just want a quick check to make sure that your oil is in the right range. But Harley's manuals have been updated to now state that the only accurate way of checking your oil level is, of course, with the oil at operating temperature and with the bike in the upright position. As always, folks, thanks for watching and ride safe.